On our agenda is an approval of the minutes from the April meeting. What sort of feedback do we want to give on these minutes? Do I hear a motion? I have a motion from Garrett. Do I have a second from Dan?
Yes, I'll second that.
To approve the minutes of the April meeting. Okay,
yes.
And all of those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, here we go. The minutes are approved. And so next on our agenda is review and approval of residence survey for possible Tiff fund expenditures. And if you recall from our last meeting that we had discussed making some changes, I should say recommending changes that the select board might put on the ballot so that we could alter not only the geography of the TIF, but also the purposes of the TIF. And one step in that direction would be to distribute a survey to the residents at the next polling time, at the next voting time, which is June 14th. To finalize those changes, we would need to go, just FYI, to finalize those changes, we would need to go to the voters. It's looking like November is a realistic expectation. We would need to have those recommendations from the select board in time for the select board to put those on the November ballot. It would be a special town meeting that would be part of the November ballot. So thank you, Reagan, for preparing this survey. This is what is before us. What do folks think? Let's just read through it for a second. Yeah. Okay. Rank your top three. So you get to pick 1, 2, and 3.
Or 5 or 10. You know, just a starting point for 5.
Yep. So Dan, I don't know if you have this in front of you, but the current format asks to rank the top 3. And the choices are an industrial business park, recreational trail creation and maintenance, business facade improvement in the downtown area, public water extension to North Monmouth, administrative costs related to TIF district implementation. I'm sure that one is going to be really popular. A portion of costs associated with the fire equipment, the fire department, funding certain marine resources projects. I don't know what that one is, but we'll come back to it. Funding of economic development programs or events in town, advertising costs to promote Monmouth as a business location, and then town-run childcare.
And I'll just make some comments on this. Some of these items, as we all recall, part of your development plan is a listing of all of the expenditures that the town has authorized TIF funds to be spent on. So that's in your development plan right now. Some of these items are already in your development plan, like the industrial business park.
Yeah.
Childcare funds for, I think you have $5,000 a year put aside for childcare. I don't know if Monmouth has any municipal childcare or if they're planning to.
No. But that's in the comprehensive plan.
That is in your TIF document, right?
Oh, in the TIF document. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. There are administrative costs related to TIF district implementation. There is business facade improvement in the downtown area. Pre-existing. And so, you know, this is tricky because there isn't a whole lot of context for people to understand what, I mean, of course, yeah, administrative costs related to TIF district implementation, but at the same time, it's a really, really logical thing to spend TIF revenues on, right? I mean,
Sure.
just write off the general funds going towards your assessor, your city, your town manager, and anyone else who touches the TIF.
Right.
So, you know, that's why I kind of also put the caveat in here that, you know, the Economic Development Committee will be taking this into consideration, you know, the feedback into consideration. It's not going to be at the top 5 items that the town people select, because our job would be to make sure that it makes sense in the context of,
and it can be implemented.
Yeah, right.
It's got to be a work program.
Now, in terms of the funding of certain marine resources projects, the reason I put that in there is because I would like to check with the attorney to see if there have been any lake projects, maybe around milfoil prevention or anything environmental that TIF revenues have been used for in other parts of the state. If that's something that Monmouth would want to consider, you know, kind of protection or boat launches or other economic development type activities around bodies of water, would be that. But again, this description may not, you know, awaken a lot of passion from townspeople. But
if you were instead to put it the way you just did, which is funding of economic development around
bodies of water, or I mean,
lakes.
Lakes, something like that. Funding of
economic development projects around lakes.
I mean, people might get.
Yeah, they might get scared about that too. How about funding of
resource protection, or
well, let's put 3 things, right? Let's put funding of environmental protection, comma, economic development, comma, and public access to lakes.
But nothing. And then if you're coming along and they're treated for. No for.
It was the algae bloom. It was an alum treatment. Yeah. So if I mean periodically, just to give you periodically the lakes. Anabescook was treated in the 70s. Cockamauga was treated in the 80s. Cockamauga was treated again 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago, $180,000 later, and now they're talking about Wilson Pond.
And is that something that you know? I mean, there's any type of grants or environmental protection?
Yeah, but the town is still expected to make a contribution. Yeah, so it's $180,000 on the share, and I think the EPA matched that as part of the program. So I mean, so we do all of those things as a town, because people intuitively know that the lakes are an important part of the economy, and that you have to treat them right, and everyone enjoys the lakes because of public access. So they've never really thought of it in the context of economic development, though. And if it's got potential to fit nicely into a TIF district as opposed to having to use general fund, which is what we've done in the past, then there would certainly be an advantage to that. At least having that option if the voters agree.
I'll look into that then, and in the meantime, we'll leave this type of description, which I think is much more useful.
Yep.
Let me see if there were any other notes. Again, advertising costs. In your Tiff application, but again, probably not something that people are really going to grab onto as anything that sounds particularly enticing.
Does it make sense to delineate was new or not existing, or then it was?
Well, I don't know I think it may, since there hasn't been a whole lot of TIF funds spent, period. Most of these projects are at ground zero in terms of being implemented. So I might suggest that we just kind of not differentiate that. That would be my thought off the top of my head.
Is there anything that's missing from this list that anyone would like to see that we haven't thought of or considered? Dan, you got anything?
No, I think you guys have covered a lot of the things that the townspeople will be interested in. When you talk about lake access, and the treatments of lake, I think of lake preservation. Preserving the lakes and maintaining what they are, and I think of recreation, and I think of the dam issue we got currently on Cocknoagan, and maybe lake preservation could also just thinking outside the box a little bit beyond lake access is also just maintaining our current lakes and lake levels, and we do have some aging dams, and I don't know if any of this could fall into that, but I would just kind of maybe try to broaden that a little bit if we could.
Okay. All right.
The other thing I was just wondering is whether or not we want to have any sort of comments section at the bottom.
I think we do.
This.
Yeah, a write-in section, definitely. That's a great idea. Yeah.
The last thing was I touched base with Kent about whether we might be able to provide this information to the comp plan group, which might be helpful to them as pressure surveying called right now. But at least we can provide this input to them. Perhaps at the North Monmouth public water extension will be a high priority for people, and that would certainly be worth the comp plan group being aware of that. So anyway, I think overall this will be a useful tool for many people.
All right. Are we ready to move on? Okay, next on our agenda is, so actually before we move on, Reagan, if you could get that to me in the next week, then I can present it to the select board. Let's see, how many select board meetings do we have before the vote? We have 2 more. So I have 1 more meeting. We're meeting tomorrow. I'm not expecting that tomorrow, but we'll be meeting 1 more time before the vote. Tomorrow, the 31st. So tomorrow's the 18th. Oh, you're probably.
We vote on the 14th.
We vote on the 14th. So we'll be meeting tomorrow on the 18th. We'll be meeting June 1st, and then we vote on the 14th. And then we'll be meeting after that on the 15th. So we'll need to make sure that that's on the agenda for the select board for the meeting first. Okay. Next up is, next on our agenda, review of the events application form.
Right. So, as we talked about, just creating tools for businesses and groups in town to take advantage of. I wanted to start presenting some of the applications and tools that the town has in place now.
Yep.
And kind of make sure that they are being well utilized. If they're not, perhaps why not? Or if there are any tweaks that need to be made to current applications or programs that the town is offering. So the first one I wanted, and just for context, there is the events funding for events that would help to promote Monmouth, bring people into Monmouth. And I think there's several events that Monmouth pulls off very well that take advantage of this type of funding. There's also a revolving loan fund for businesses that I believe the greenhouse has utilized at one point. That's the one I know of for certain, but is not a highly utilized. I'm sorry, Chicks. Apple Orchard has used it several years ago. But otherwise, I'm not sure that a lot of businesses utilize the revolving loan fund. And of course, if we're offering it, we want it to be used, and if it's not being used, why? And then let's see. Oh, and then the third one is the facade improvement grant program. And that has been heavily utilized by the Monmouth Museum and perhaps one other entity. But again, can we expand that in any way so that more groups in town can take advantage of that funding? And all of these programs are funded with Tiff funds. That's how the town gets the money to implement these. So I just wanted to give that background. So tonight, I thought we would talk about the events application form, which again, I know I've received an application from the Monmouth Museum for this to have an intern come to them in the summer. I've gotten it for the beach party. That was a recent one, and I think the select board is either looking at that, maybe
Did we already
already look at it?
Dan, didn't we already approve the beach party funding?
No, we did not. I think that's coming up possibly tomorrow night.
Okay. And
yeah,
what's
Don?
Tell me, Dan. Tell me again the requested amount.
I think Don was going to put in for 3,000. I think I had requested 25, and when she started adding up some of our expenses, she thought she'd try to go for 3,000, and certainly you know that can be talked down if necessary.
Okay.
So and then again, I think probably Applefest uses it.
Yep.
Mayfair probably. Oh, Mayfair did not use it. Did not use it, or didn't this year. So in any event, just trying to get a sense of if this needs any updating or if the program itself needs updating. Another thing I would like to do is put on the website what this application is actually for, so groups know whether or not they can access funds from it, and then have the application online so people have access to it. And so those would be some of the things. Again, this was updated in 2014.
Yep.
You know, so it's, you know,
so
8 years old.
So the maximum amount of $1,000 is probably not valid.
Right. That is one thing that, again, you know, just having the beach parties application come across my desk and wondering if that's still how the town wants to administer the funds, if they want to look more at a percentage match, or if there is an upper limit to a percentage, just kind of trying to figure out some options that will allow it to be pertinent.
I'm open to what makes sense. We're not typically, I mean, I don't know what does Apple Fest typically request?
I don't know that answer. I don't know the answer to that. I know the museum requested 500 for their interns for the summer.
Right.
I don't know what Apple Fest has typically requested.
So these are not, I mean, it's important dollars to keep track of, but it's not huge amounts of dollars. You know, my sense would be we should put we should just keep it simple and put a dollar limit on it. And it's, you know, it's not like we don't know the organizations are not fly-by-night organizations when they come apply. And the ones, I mean, if ever we did get a fly-by-night organization to apply, we would just say, who are you again? What? So yeah, so I would just keep it simple and establish a dollar amount. And if past precedent for the beach party has been $3,000, then I would say the maximum is $3,000. And then that would be that. I mean, unless I hear differently from other folks, I could be swayed.
I think $1,000 is not much, you know, today's dollars. So I like the idea of increasing it. Certainly 3,000 is a step in the right direction.
Dan, can I ask what your budget is for the beach party?
Beach party? Yeah, so I'd have to add it up in my head, but I'm gonna say it's 5,000 for the fireworks, 1,000 for the band. I'm gonna say another 1,000 for incidentals, which, well, six to 700 for event insurance. $300 for porta potty.
So Dan, you're starting to break up there.
Well, I guess what I was getting at is, should it be or 50% of the cost of the event, or do people care? You know, would this fund all of Apple Fest, or that was kind of my question.
Yeah, I mean, we could do. I mean, I'm all for encouraging people. Oh, Dan's back. Dan, are you done?
Yep.
Yeah. So what?
Can you hear me now?
What was the? We didn't hear the end of your sentences there. You got cut off. Is it safe to say that the budget is probably in the neighborhood of $9,000 or $10,000?
Oh. 10,000 maximum is our budget.
Okay. Okay. So by the town contributing 3,000 to the beach party, it's like a 30%, which is a great leverage, right? I mean, the rest of that is private funding from, you know, shoe leather effort. So, I mean, if we wanted to say 50% or $3,000 or 50%, whichever is greater, right? We don't want to be shouldering the entire burden of some organization's efforts. I think you know, that like the beach party, we'd like to see organizations make their own contributions, not just come to us, you know, ask for 100% or anything like that.
And I will say that I'm not sure. I guess I should say I don't know whether or not the museum has provided a match in the past, so that, you know, for their $500
right
interns, for example.
Right.
So just making sure,
right,
putting that up there.
So yeah, I don't know either, but we can have a conversation with the museum as well. And if you said it, if you phrased it that way, then someone could apply up for $3,000 if that's the greatest amount, or it's 50%. I mean, I guess they could go more than $3,000 if it's 50% of their expenditures.
Well, whichever is
greater, 50% or $3,000, whichever is greater.
I know the museum gets grants to other places, like they just moved from the Blossom House and
Yep.
the Blossom House. They got a grant from somebody. That.
Yeah. So the other, and I'm open to other questions here from folks here about the format of this application. Is the process for this application, all applications must be presented to the town manager for approval by the select board? Is that the process that we want on this application?
I would say so.
Okay.
Applications you receive preferred consideration when using local businesses. Funds can only be used for non-additional purposes. Right, and I sort through the receipts. That was fine. So, so that's great. And so, Ken, just to clarify, if I'm reading this, the suggested or the donation or the amount would be $3,000 or 50% of the budget, whichever is greater. So in that case, that would allow the beach party to request 5,000.
It could, if they want.
I just wanted to make sure that I knew where this was trending. So So then would the 3,000 then be relevant, or are we just saying 50%, up to 50% of the cost? Am I thinking about this correctly?
No, you're right on that. So maybe the 3,000 is not relevant.
Right. It would be if that's how we're phrasing it, or if you said $3,000 or 50%, whichever is less.
Here's another way to phrase it. What if we say it's $1,000 or 50% of the cost of the event, whichever is greater? And that way, if the museum, for example, wants to ask for $500 for intern, yeah. So if the museum wants to ask for $500 for the intern, a small amount, then maybe we'd be willing to fund 100% of that.
They need often the facade grants.
Yes, and that's a separate. That's a separate application. Which is this is the simplest application, which I thought we would warm up with. The facade grant is facade grant application is multiple pages, and I think maybe contradictory in some areas. So that's why I wanted to start with this because it's simple. So we'll leave it there. Okay, perfect. So okay. This is helpful, and I guess, Dan, is there any feedback in terms of how the form, complexity of filling it out, any issues?
No, I think it's very simple. It's very simple, and I like the idea of simplicity. Keep it short. I think it was like what, a one pager,
yeah,
or two. Yeah. No, I think it's good, for the most part, just like it is. We've been doing it every year for going on 6 years now, or for the last few years anyway. I don't know if we did it the first year, but yeah, it works. I just keep thinking about that 50% of the budget. I mean, that you sure you don't want to have a maximum? I mean, I could entertain a public event that could be a $20,000 budget for some other type of event idea, and you're I can apply for 10,000. So
you could, but you still have to, Dan. You'd still have to get it past the select board.
Okay. All right. That's fine then. I just want to make sure we're not going down a slippery slope where people are expecting, they're going to get the 50%, no matter what their budget is. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think starting off with that parameter is a good first pass. And basically what it says is for large amounts, we expect a contribution from the organization or other funders. right? And then the rest of the funding process can be made at the discretion of the select board. And I know Doug, he's pretty frugal, so I don't think he would be willing to say, oh yeah, 10,000, sure.
Right. Okay.
And I've done it on the public record. Oh my God. So, shall we move on to item number 5, marketing and promotion of businesses on the town website? Where are we?
We are. Oh, so as we do that, perhaps we can turn our priority survey over.
Yeah.
I did speak to, and thank you to the businesses who filled out the sample form that Dennis put together. I talked to Dennis about this. He is in a choir practice, or there's something upstairs that he has to manage right now, so he could not make it. But he said that he has the information and he can look for us to direct him about how we want that displayed. Do we want it in alphabetical order? Do we want it in categories by industry?
Right.
You know, and what it will do. I don't know if, I mean, some of us may have gone on and filled out the form, but I thought it looked fantastic on the website.
Yep.
It's under the economic development tab. And he has all of the parameters on there. It has to be a Monmouth-based business, has to be registered with the state. So that was all great. And so again, he has the information he's collected, and we'll start putting that on the website as soon as we kind of determine how we want it displayed. That was the first thing. The second thing was, I thought if we were going to be doing this survey, maybe if we wanted to advertise at the same time to people who run a business in Monmouth, that we have this free listing on the website, sure, so that they can take advantage of it if they want to.
Sure.
And so
I think that makes sense. We will definitely need to have the process finished. I think Dennis did a great job of getting the data collection form squared away. The workflow seemed to work fine. And then the last step is going to be, coming up with some parameters for how businesses are displayed. And I personally, I don't think an alphabetical listing is helpful. Now, I think maybe let's have Dennis make up some categories, and he can, or if you want to, Reagan, based on what you get. But we do need to sort of give people and some examples of what it's going to look like, right? If I'm a business person, and you're asking me if I want to submit my information, my first thing would be, well, let me show you let me see what you got, right? Because if you don't have anything, I'm not going to submit it. And so we're going to need to seed that a little bit with some categories and get some, word of mouth to generate some businesses just to sign up so that we can get the ball rolling in terms of momentum. Yeah. And that might be, I think it's great to advertise this as part of voting, because it's very likely that business owners are probably likely voters that day. But I would also say that, maybe you could make a few phone calls to your, list of local people and say, hey, did you know? Right, I'll send you the link. If you're interested, I'll send you the link. We're just getting it started. There's not much there now. But if I send you the link, would you sign up? And yeah, the sooner the better as far as, figuring out the categories of businesses and getting a page up there.
In terms of maintenance going forward, is that on the town or is that?
Yes, I think you know, Dennis is volunteering at this point, and I can certainly figure out. But once he sets it up, I can put data in, but
right.
I can't set it up. So once he puts the
well, I was more thinking like removing something or somebody.
Right. Yes, that would be the question. You know, and just as a little side note, I talked to the town about how to keep in touch with businesses. I saw that the Monmouth Museum sent me a nice newsletter that they send out, and they also have in there, if you'd like to get this by email, let us know and we'll send it to you by email. I know that the Winthrop Area Chamber has a constant contact that goes up. The town does not have much in terms of communicating with businesses or residents, except for the website. So that's a little aside, just to kind of think about. Mailers can be expensive, although the business list is not overwhelming. And it would be an allowable Tiff expenditure if I wanted to do a mailer twice a year to businesses. But just in terms of trying to keep that fresh, Garrett, if you're out of business, then you're communicating that so we don't have businesses that are no longer in, running on the website. So that still needs to be worked out. My initial thought is that there's going to need to be some semi-annual communication and purge based on that.
I was just kind of curious.
Yeah. So that would be definitely. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a website that doesn't have good information on it. Yeah.
So yeah, that's intriguing, because you could make it an annual or semi-annual, sort of reaching out like, hey, do you want to renew your listing? And if we don't hear from you, your listing is going to be
taken off.
Deauthorized.
You'll have to put it back on.
Right, archived. Yeah. Right. That's a great idea.
Okay. But yeah, so that we'll just say the word. So I will come up with some categories, and Dennis is raring to put those businesses up on the website, and we can continue to market that with me reaching out, and also just kind of some flyers at the voting station.
Okay. Anything to add before we move on? Yeah.
You had mentioned that in the past the survey had also been put on the town website. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's something we also want to do again.
How did we do when Linda Cohen did her survey? Did we set up a web page or a Facebook page or something? I seem to remember there being something on Facebook, but it might have been a town website link that got shared at Facebook, perhaps.
I think it's something.
I'll ask Lori what she recalls.
Yeah, and there should be a paper version and an electronic version, and a request that people only vote once. You don't get to vote.
Honor system.
It'll be what it is.
All right, great. I'll look into that too. Great. I remember Jason. So there's nothing else for that from my point of view.
Yeah, and I also think that Dennis has got the right perspective to be able to moderate the admission and archiving businesses. So if we get anything that doesn't meet the qualifications that we've set, then Dennis is comfortable referring the matter to the town manager if that's really a problem. So Dan, got anything before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. New business. We have new business. Anyone want to bring anything up? Look at that, we're even ahead of schedule.
There had been the one issue with the signs.
Yes, I have one issue, but I wanted to see if anyone wanted to talk about anything else. Okay, well, my issue under new business is about profane signs around town. And it's certainly very important that everyone gets an opportunity to exercise their First Amendment rights. And included in that is, you know, how it is you decorate your house, I suppose. The problem with how it's turned out is that we've got some signs that are quite prominently displayed, have profanities in them, and we can spend all the time we want trying to attract businesses to town, and those signs repel them. And unfortunately, that's a problem that I would ask for some neighborly help with.
The Federalist Papers and the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I like to see the Bill of Rights as being the guidelines.
Yeah.
That it's not an absolute thing, but it's not. And I was wondering, and I guess I haven't read enough of the Federalist Papers to determine if those men who were writing this were following those as being guidelines rather than absolutes. Mm-hmm. But I, of course, I don't know how the courts would deal with this today if we decided we were going to somehow control the First Amendment.
Right.
Is there any way to do that?
I sincerely doubt that in a legal way that the town would have the authority to limit speech in a public way. I don't know. I don't know that to be completely true, but my suspicion is that that's probably not the way that I would recommend that we would approach the problem, because the issue is really more about not what does the law read or what are the regulations, or can we create rules to try and get people to behave in an adult and a responsible way. My sense is that we need to work the network. Like, we need to find the right lever to approach the folks who have these signs and say, hey, it's not cool when the school bus drives by and 30 kids read that sign and think that that's an okay way to decorate your house. That's not cool. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you want to put something else out there that expresses a protest over one issue or another, totally fine. Does it have to include profane words that say to kids that this is normal? It's not normal.
That's kind of the function that we want. That's the way you want to present yourself for the town.
That's it. I mean, I'm not the right person to say that to whomever's got these signs on their houses. We need to find the right person to do that. And
you know something.
I'm putting the question out there. I'm asking for some help to find the right people to go have that conversation, because it's definitely a it has an impact on people's impression of Monmouth. And if our job as a committee is to attract businesses and to be welcoming to others to Monmouth, then that's a problem.
Or do other, like Augusta, have to do with this?
Well, you know, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't think of anywhere in Augusta where I've seen a vehicle, a truck, drive around with some profanities. And actually, someone had mentioned to me that, you know, their child was in the car with them and they were behind this vehicle, and they had to explain to them, you know,
what
kind
that
of
word means,
yeah, why,
right?
you know, what that was about, and just kind of give a little lesson on that. The thing that, you know, the thing that jumped to my mind initially was just kind of our, you know, we have zoning in Augusta, so it's a little different. And what can and can't be done in the downtown business district, for example. You know, certain flags can't be flown, certain, you know, signage has to be a certain way. But unfortunately, Monmouth doesn't have that.
We don't have zoning.
Differentiator.
Yeah, and I doubt that there would be. I doubt that there would be any interest in that, nor the because yeah. But what Monmouth does have going for it, and this is what I tell people when they come to visit from the big city, is like a lot of problems get solved between neighbors. In rural Maine, when there's a problem, this is how we solve it. People go and they talk to one another and they say, hey, look, here's what I think. What can we do? I mean, and it's not just about straightening people out or whatever. It's, you know, when the power is out for 3 weeks because there's an ice storm, people go and they say, hey, do you have firewood? Do you have enough food? I mean, they knock on their neighbors, they check on them. And that's just how we solve problems. We don't need a special program or regulations or rules or whatever. We can have a neighbor-to-neighbor conversation. The other day, I made a mistake. I went too fast on my Sea-Doo. I was going too fast, close to the shore. Neighbors came to me and they said, Ken, are you okay? You look like you're in a really big hurry. Right? We thought it was an emergency or something. And I said, I get the message. Okay. Problem solved. We need to do that. I mean, it's only two, the ones I'm aware of, there are 2 houses.
Better them than the game one.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course. No, I totally appreciate it. And you know what? I don't want to take it off my neighbors either. But those signs do say something about our community. They do. And they say it to the people within the community, like, okay, I have to go by that and look at it every day. But it also says to potential business owners who might be thinking about moving to Monmouth, bringing their business to Monmouth, this is what this town thinks is normal.
Well, not really. It's just some people.
Yeah. Normal. It's okay.
You've never seen anything like this previously?
No. No.
In Monmouth.
In Monmouth.
I'm saying unrelated, even just profanity in general. You know, what kind of restrictions?
No. So anyway, that's my new business. And that's my ask of folks around the table is, can we brainstorm on how we might have a neighbor-to-neighbor conversation with those folks? And who would be the right person to do that? I know that's probably not me, right? And it might not even be an elected official. It might be just someone who knows somebody well enough to say, hey, look, buddy, there's another sign you can say this. You can say the same thing, but without being profane. And that's fine.
There used to be.
So I got a comment.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's a good idea to just have a nice neighborly talk with those individuals. I also agree it should not be a person of authority. So forget the police department, forget the town. You know, that's just gonna complicate or exacerbate the situation.
Escalate.
I like the idea of the angle with the school bus and the kids. So I think that's the way to approach it. I don't think you're going to get somebody like a school principal. I don't even think you're going to get a neighbor because they're going to be in fear of retaliation or something.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So I will offer to you that I will speak to both property owners because I know them, and I think I got an angle. And if I can't get it done, I'm going to say it's probably just not going to get done. But I'll give it a stab and I'll report back to you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's super helpful. All right. Well, we'll come back to that later. Other new business? Any other new business?
I'm not really a member of this.
Yeah. You're here as a member of the public. We've adopted.
I'm self-appointed.
Public comment? All right, well then, our next meeting is June 21st. Did anyone hear from Chelsea?
I did not hear from Chelsea.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to her and make sure she...
Yeah.
And as I said, Allie apparently is working at the school now, and she went home sick today.
Okay. Yeah.
So she did tell me.
And Dennis couldn't make it because he had a conference.
Yes.
All right. And just so you folks are aware, Andy Smith, the owner of the Milk House, has expressed some interest in joining our committee. I'm working on it. We're going to get him an application. He couldn't make tonight's meeting, but he did express an interest. So we'll see if we can put that through the process. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We have a motion. Dan, do we have a second?
Second.
There we go. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.